committed to ensure that taxes are not raised on businesses or the people of Hawaii. I do know how to balance a budget without having to increase revenues. The other thing that I have heard as I've traveled around the state really is that economic growth will occur with small businesses. And we need to turn government upside down so that they can do a better job of responding to the needs of small business. It really is about listening to the concerns of small business and truly understanding that it's the small businesses that will provide the job growth and economic activity in our communities. It is clear that the military and federal spending is the second largest economic driver in our communities. Yes, and I do support continued training in Hawaii. I think it's an important and essential part of having our military partners here in Hawaii. I believe that the governor has to be a #1 advocate for perpetuating and expanding the military presence in our communities. I believe it's time that the governor step up and wear the mantle of being the advocate for government, Department of Defense and government spending here in Hawaii. And it starts with a number of things. I think we need to help work through the community concerns that rise up across the state. It is about looking for opportunities to make joint investments. Many of the infrastructure required to support increased Department of Defense spending in Hawaii are infrastructure requirements that support our communities as well. We need to be proactive and aggressive in assuring the military and the Department of Defense that we see them as vital partners in our economy and make that commitment to keep them here. I have 3 children. I understand the importance of early education. I have had the terror of driving home from the hospital with our baby and wondering about where am I going to sign them up for preschool, because I know about the terror of not having a space. It is something that is very, very important to all of us with children. But the question that is on the ballot is whether taxpayer dollars should go to private preschool providers. I am opposed to the constitutional amendment for these simple reasons. One, universal preschool for 4-year-olds will cost us $125 million minimum. That doesn't include the facilities cost. The question is, where are we going to come up with this money? Are you in a position to pay higher taxes to pay for some kind of preschool program? Second, the private providers are not where we need them most. Private preschools are not located in those communities that have the biggest need, that have the most children who are currently not receiving that opportunity to be in an early education program. We need to do much, much more work before the private preschools are in position to accept these children all across the state. If you decide that we should provide taxpayer funds for private preschools, I would start in those communities where it's needed most. I would look at expansion of the Head Start program, because that's something that is already in place, and they are targeted at providing services in the communities that need it most. As chair of Ways and Means Committee, I was really proud to be able to work with the Chamber on their manufacturing initiative this past session. You and I know I'm a techie at heart. We know that manufacturing and the capabilities of machinery to manufacture and produce products has changed so dramatically that you can begin to see the future for manufacturing in Hawaii. There are many, many opportunities for manufacturing here in the state of Hawaii. And so much more of what we can do can be high value, high price, and low weight, which is really the key to make something that you manufacture in Hawaii be cost competitive as you ship it all around the world. So as you know, I've been working with the Chamber to create a targeted tax credit limited to provide an incentive for businesses to make that capital investment in those manufacturing devices. I think you and I know the more that we can help our businesses develop manufacturing capabilities, I think the better off we are in our community. And I would continue to advocate and work with the chamber to find ways to support manufacturing and support development and growth of our businesses here in Hawaii. My criticism of the Health Connector has been documented in the newspaper. I really do believe that we made a mistake in moving forward with the Health Connector and the SHOP program. You know, we do have the Hawaii Prepaid Healthcare Program, which provides the best health insurance environment in the country. And so the benefits of the Affordable Care Act was very marginal and minimal to the state of Hawaii. It was the executive that embraced and enrolled in all of the components without seeking any kind of exemptions. And I agree with Mr. Iona that at this point in time, looking at how we can move forward, we don't have a whole lot of options in front of us. But I do believe we should continue to petition and work with the federal government and HMS to seek exemptions and modifications for the Affordable Care Act. We have the best insurance program in the country, and we need to impress upon them that many of the benefits that are envisioned for the Affordable Care Act are already present in Hawaii. So we need to, as governor, I would continue to advocate and work with the federal government to state our case about why we need an exemption as soon as possible and not sit and wait and pretend to be helpless until 2017. I believe the tourism industry is sustainable today, but I do believe that we can do better. You know, I'm a big proponent of establishing a second international point of entry into the state of Hawaii. We all know that Honolulu International Airport today is at capacity. We cannot accept any more international flights. So opening up a second port of entry at Kona International Airport, which is the airport that is closest to ready to accept international travelers, would be the simplest, fastest way to improve and the sustainability or long-term viability of the visitor industry here in Hawaii. We do know that the international visitor spends 3 to 5 times more than a visitor that comes here from the United States or the continental US. So going after the international visitor, I think, is very important. In addition to that, I really would advocate with the Congress and the State Department for improved visa access. You know, if we pre-qualify visitors from Japan or Korea so that they can qualify in their countries, much like they do the visitor from Canada can pre-clear in Canada, we would immediately be able to accept more international visitors from those 2 points. So I think both of those ideas would allow us to get those tourists that spend more in our economy and would give a boost to everyone, especially in neighbor island properties. You know, I never was president or CEO, and I've never talked about being president or CEO. But I did have executive positions, and I have excelled and won many awards. While at GTE, Verizon, Hawaiian Tel, I was a member of the planning and advanced communications programs, and we were awarded by GTE Bronze Award for creativity in implementing innovative programs. You know, as vice president at Net Enterprises, I oversaw the engineering operations as many businesses in our community transitioned to outsourcing IT, and we were on the receiving end of many contracts for providing IT outsource services to many businesses in our community. You know, I also had the privilege of joining a startup, a business startup. You know, I was employee number 7 at Pihana Pacific. In our first round of venture funding, we raised $20 million in venture capital and established the first carrier-neutral data center in Honolulu. And then we went on to raise $200 million and became the biggest private equity investment in the history of the state of Hawaii. You Duke, I guess it's obvious that you don't know what it means to be part of a legislative body. It's really about working with your colleagues to try and find consensus and find common ground. Yes, I didn't introduce the bill specifically, but I did have a hearing on the bill to raise the general excise tax. As chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, it is my job to look at all the opportunities before us. And if you remember in that session, we started the session with about a $300 million deficit. By the end of the first month in January, that deficit had grown to $700 million. And by the time the budget was transferred to the Senate, it was at $1.3 billion. The question as chairman of Ways and Means is, do I put all options on the table? And yes, I did. And that included putting the general excise tax on the table for a public hearing. We went out, we had a public hearing. I, as chairman of Ways and Means, was trying to see where my members wanted to go on this issue. I put it up for a vote because I don't believe in hiding important decisions from the people of Hawaii. And I did vote in support of that bill because as chairman of the committee, I do believe that it's my obligation. If I'm going to put a bill up for a vote, it should be something that I supported. So I did vote in support, and the majority of the committee said no. So I rolled up my sleeve, stepped back, and looked at other opportunities to balance the budget. I am proud that I rejected the tax on pension income because I was not going to balance the budget on the backs of retirees. I rejected the repeal of the Medicare Part B reimbursements for public employees because I refused to let, again, balance the budget on the back of the retirees. Most importantly, I cut the budget tremendously so that we could ensure that we had a balanced budget without raising taxes. That's what I did.